Hey everybody, I am super excited to bring you this amazing agent from our office. He is an expert in multiple different areas, but the area that I want to share with you that Andy knows a lot about is Airbnbs. So, welcome, Andy.
Thank you, Roxanne. Happy to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. So, tell us a little bit about Andy, who he is, and how you got into the business of real estate.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Andy, lifelong San Diegan. I was born and raised in Mission Bay, Bay Park area. Graduated of Claremont High School, and I also graduated from Point Loma Nazarene University. So I have a lot of roots here in San Diego. Been doing real estate now for a couple years, almost 3 years. And then I've been an agent for about a year and 3 months. So can't believe that it's flown by this much or this quickly, but happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Well, and in that short period of time that you've been in real estate, you've done an amazing job. Clients are really happy with you, and share with us your whole experience of buying and rehabbing and then turning properties into basically vacation rentals and tell us all that you know about that, because I know that that's an area that a lot of people are interested in and they can benefit from your knowledge and your expertise.
Definitely. No, definitely. I feel like Airbnb is one of the hottest real estate investment strategies right now. I actually never wanted to do Airbnb when I got into real estate.
Call it short-term rentals because they
Yeah,
always
sorry.
using verbos for that purpose, right?
Yeah, short-term rentals. I actually, though, had the opportunity. I bought a property and the seller was moving. He retired. He already had a home fully furnished somewhere else. And so we had three fully furnished units. And he basically proposed that I just keep everything. And he was like, you should try Airbnb. I've been doing it at this property for a long time. It's done very well. I think you have a lot of success. And I just had so much fun with it. You really are hosting like a hotel experience for guests.
Mhm.
You get to introduce them to San Diego. You get to provide like the experience that they'll never forget, that they'll remember forever. And I have had guests who stayed with me and then eventually moved to San Diego. And I just think it's a great strategy. It took a long time. Like like you said, we started with buy and hold with distressed properties, fixing them up, and now we're sort of getting into the next phase, which is fixing up the property and then actually designing it and furnishing it. And it's been a lot of fun. And I would say that my biggest takeaway is no matter which strategy you choose, buy and hold or Airbnb, you should always assume that the Airbnb won't always work out, and that long term should always be your goal and always be a plan B. So, but always good to play it safe.
So when you are thinking of strategizing, are you and making offers on potential properties? Are you making offers based on the income that the property will generate as a short-term rental, or as just a regular rental that but and then the short-term rental excess income is basically gravy?
Exactly. You should never analyze your properties just as a short term. I feel like people who did that maybe overpaid for properties, and if it doesn't work out and you have to rent it long term, you do run the risk of losing money every month. That's why I always think you should analyze your deals for long term, even if Airbnb or short term is the game plan, just to be safe. And I just think that's the best bet, even though renting it as a short term does create a lot more money. It's just more cash flow and more peace of mind.
Now, you're basically doing this in San Diego, correct?
No, I actually do it in Tulsa, Oklahoma as well. So both in and out of state.
All right. Well, tell us more about that then.
Yeah, well, I have a little family connection. My wife is actually from Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Mhm.
and we decided about a year ago that we wanted to travel there more often to see her family, and we didn't want to pay for a hotel every time we went. Traveling is very expensive, especially right now. So we got the Airbnb out there too, and we are able to rent it out as much as we want. And we also have the control to block off some dates and go visit her family at the same time and stay for free. So it's a really great deal. It's been just as successful as San Diego is, especially because when you target an Airbnb, you really should look for neighborhoods that are close to tourist destinations, downtown areas. The one I have in Tulsa, Oklahoma, is very close to a convention center with lots of events. So very centrally located.
So it's interesting. That was my next question for you. How do you pick the properties that you basically purchase or help your clients purchase? How do you determine whether or not they're a good candidate for a short-term rental?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think you really need to think about who your guests will be, who your clientele really will be. San Diego is blessed to have obviously great weather year round, a great tourism population pretty much all year round. But besides that, we also have a lot of events. We have professional sports teams. We have a lot of business, and we also have a lot of hospitals. So I always say you should start in the near or close to the downtown area, just because people go on vacation. That's typically where they go. But don't be afraid too of being close to a convention center, local hospital, maybe like a stadium for a professional sports team. But you really want something that will serve as like an anchor for all the rest of your guests and give them something to do while they stay there.
So, since you've been managing this business, tell us what's the pros and what are the cons? What do you experience as the great benefits of running short-term rental properties, and what are the cons of oh no, stay away, let's not do that? So
I will say, there have been times where I've paid $1,000 utility bill. And so there is that. People are on vacation. If you have AC and heating, which I do recommend, people tend to like take advantage of it, I think is the best way to put it. And they'll leave the AC running when they leave, or overnight. Heater, same thing. They'll take extended showers, whatever, and it's fine. But there are little steps that you can take to prevent those things. For instance, once I started
those steps.
Once I had to pay a super expensive utility bill, I actually started to leave signs around the house, and would even kind of communicate to guests that, if you're not using it, or you're going to be leaving the house, then, we kindly ask that you turn it off, or you can, educate people on, the environmental impact of like leaving utilities running and sort of preventing that. Another thing is I've thought about getting solar too, which is a plan, but I would say those are more of the cons. The pros is, the money is much better. In all honesty, I think people will be very shocked to know how much they can get for their property per night. You just look at hotel rates, even in San Diego or anywhere. The average hotel in San Diego is somewhere in the like 300s or like 200s a night. So you can get a lot for your properties. You also get to meet a lot of very interesting people. I've met people from other countries. I've met other hosts, other professionals, even in real estate. And have really like built probably lifelong relationships just because of Airbnb, and I do love that. And the third thing to add to that is also the design aspect of it. Like furnishing the properties is super fun. Kind of picking a theme, picking a style, and kind of letting your creative juices flow a little bit. It's always good.
That's awesome. So now talk to us about the investment side of it. You've been able to successfully buy multiple properties. So tell us how you set that up, how you set up the financing, and how do you choose which property to go for, and how do you determine what's your next best candidate for a person?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a lot of investors kind of get stuck with that. It's no secret that there are many ways to make money in real estate, especially real estate investing. And I think just the biggest first step that you can take is just identifying like which strategy it is that you want to do, whether it is short-term rental or your traditional long-term rental, or a fix and flip, or or whichever strategy you choose. It's really just picking that one and then going or just learning as much as you can. You can't pick fix and flip one month and then the next month you decide buy and hold, and then the next month you do short term. The way it was phrased to me was you really should be building one bridge at a time. And once you figured out one thing and you feel like you've mastered it, you can move on to the next. So in my case, buy and hold investing, just your traditional long-term year minimum leases was how I got started. I did about 5 units. I have about 5 long-term units right now that way then I got the Airbnbs. But it wasn't until I actually nailed down the long-term from getting a property, fixing it up, renting it out, and then maintaining the tenants along the way. Once I figured that out, I really did feel comfortable moving to my next strategy. From there, the biggest question mark in California residential real estate seems to be financing. The properties are very expensive, but I would say that there are a lot of people out there who do have money, who know the powers of real estate and the advantages they get by investing in it. And I always just recommend it's good to partner up with people, especially with experience. It's the best way to learn. It's the best way to kind of grow and learn with others too. So those are probably my biggest takeaways.
Got it. Excellent. Okay. And I can't help to look at the background that where you're sitting and look at those beautiful windows that you have behind you. So tell us about where you are at. Tell us about those windows, and also tell us about your passion about historic homes.
Absolutely. So yeah, my number one greatest love is historic homes. I'm in Sherman Heights today, which is a neighborhood just south of Golden Hill and east of downtown. One of San Diego's oldest neighborhoods. It originated in the 1860s. And so I'm in an old 1889 Victorian house right now. It's actually an Airbnb of mine. And I'm kind of in between guests, and I get to kind of hang out here sometimes and work. But I've always been very passionate about historic homes. I had family members growing up who lived in Hillcrest and the Mission Hills neighborhoods, lived in 1930s little bungalows, and I've always been fascinated by it. When I finally had the chance to buy my first home, I bought a 1930s California bungalow. Learned how to do research on my house. I actually found out a former professional baseball player grew up in my house, and I'm a huge baseball fan, so that really hit home to me and just got me interested in historic houses. And as I sort of put myself out there and met other investors, I realized that other investors were interested in historic homes too, and in investing in them and sort of showing off their beauty, such as these windows. You are able to attract more Airbnb guests and very cool artsy people that are kind of my style.
So then you've basically figured out to blend in the short-term rentals and the historic home lovers and match the two together.
Exactly. Yeah. I always feel like real estate investors get the knock that they're super boring and cut and dry and emotionless. And while, it might be true, but I definitely think if you're going to get into real estate and real estate investing, whether it's just buying your first home or buying an investment property, you really should enjoy the properties you buy, in my opinion. It doesn't mean you should spend any more or less. It's just, it's nice to have a property that looks good and you can be prideful of and show off and really, I just feel like it's easier to scale that way, and more people are kind of into what you're doing because you are so passionate about it.
Right. Okay. So tell us what you know about all these laws changing, because we know that there is a lot of changes happening with short-term rentals in San Diego.
Yep.
What do you know about that, and how would that affect potential investors thinking of investing in short-term rentals in San Diego?
Yeah, no, definitely. So what you're referring to is the city of San Diego decided a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, that they were going to change how they license Airbnbs. They also chose to restrict the number of Airbnbs that they allow in the city. They felt that the city was just getting too congested with Airbnbs. Pretty sure at one point Mission Beach was up to like, it was like 99% Airbnbs. It was getting a little out of hand. So what they decided to do, and it took a long process, but they're limiting the number of Airbnbs in the city of San Diego to 1% per neighborhood, aside from Mission Beach, which is being limited to 30%. So it's a little complicated. I won't dive into it too much because it is a little bit long, but the city is starting, I believe it's in May, they're going to require that all Airbnb hosts have this new permit. It's going to be based off of a lottery system. The application process actually ends in 2 weeks on November 30th. So if you have an Airbnb, you apply online, you get put into a lottery system. And if you get this, there's actually like 4 tiers, but the most coveted one is where you can Airbnb throughout the whole year. And if you get that, you're actually only going to be able to have 1 listing. So for instance, the building I'm in now is a triplex. I have 3 Airbnb listings. I'm going to lose 2 of them.
Oh, wow.
According to this rule. So something I've been implementing, though, that sort of a loophole or a way around it are medium-term rentals, which are 30 days or more. And I've actually had a lot of luck with that just because digital nomad traveling has actually grown substantially. I'm pretty sure I read a stat once where before COVID, like digital nomads made up for about 7% of the workforce. And now it's up to somewhere around 40%.
Wow.
So a lot of people actually are choosing not to live in a home, and they're consolidating all of their items into a carry-on bag or 2, and they're just jumping around from city to city every 2 to 3 months. And it's becoming a really popular thing, and I've sort of pivoted on most of my properties towards that, and just sort of banking on getting that one permit to sort of list as a short-term rental. Hopefully that made sense. It's a little complicated, but I'm hoping that it all works out for the best.
That is very clever. And so where do you advertise for these digital nomads? Where do you get them?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I guess the answer is pretty much anywhere where you could advertise a property, even like Zillow, there's Airbnb, VRBO. Another big one is Furnished Finder. All of them target towards digital nomads. On most of the sites like VRBO and Airbnb, you can actually set your minimum booking date to like 28 days or more, which is going to be the requirement. So that's a pretty easy fix. Furnished Finder is a site that goes directly to traveling nurses. It's one of the number 1 traveling nurse sites. And even when you list your property, it'll automatically input the closest hospitals and like how many miles it is to them. That's a cool one. It's a little bit different. Like Airbnb and VRBO are booking platforms where people can actually book and stay at your place exclusively through the app. Furnished Finder is more of a lead gen for tenants. And you basically get these leads, you communicate with the people, and then you sign a lease with them, and they could stay anywhere from 6 months to 12 months. And honestly, they're some of the best guests, in my opinion.
That is very clever. So great job, Andy. So audience, there you have it. Wealth of knowledge, and very humble, great to work with, easy to communicate with. Andy has many ways that you can reach out to him. There is Andy's phone number, and there's his email address. He's also very active on Instagram. He makes some of the best videos, short videos that you can find on Instagram. So we are very proud of him here at Pemberley. He is one of our number 1 agents that operates within our brokerage, and we're very proud of him. And thank you so much, Andy, today for sharing your knowledge and telling us everything there is about historic homes and short-term rentals. Great job. And audience, if you find this video helpful, please make sure to give us a thumbs up or give us a like, and anything that you have in terms of questions or comments, we always appreciate those as well. If you're trying to get there's my phone number, And here's my email address. And also you can find me on Instagram at Roxanne Govari. And we always appreciate you tuning into our channel, and have a great day.
Thank you, Roxanne. Bye, everyone.
Andy.